Okay, Luke Ford here, live Torah talk with Joey Kurtzman and I. And this week's portion is Vayetze, and that means it's from the book of Genesis, starting with chapter 28, verse 10. And but just before we get into that, I have to do a quick note. Joey is going to lead today, but I just want to do a quick note on something we were talking about last time on page 125 of the Chutz of the Stone Art Scroll Chumash. That means commentary on the 5 books of the Torah. Says, Torah stresses that Abraham and Isaac were father and son. The cynics of that generation had been saying that Sarah must have become pregnant by Avimelech, since she and Abraham had been married for many decades without a child, but she had given birth only after being taken by the Philistine king. Therefore, God made Isaac's speeches so undeniably similar to Abraham that even the scoffers had to admit that it was indeed Abraham who begot Isaac.
What do you make of that?
Hey, it's in the Azkal Chumash, it must be right. But it's interesting. I didn't realize that the cynics of the generation had been saying that Avimelech. I thought this was a new insight that I just found in Commentary magazine.
Right. No, they seem to have, those older guys back in the day picked up on these things too. But yeah. Huh.
Kind of interesting watching ourselves on 20-second delay here.
Yeah. It's always interesting watching yourself. It's always a disappointment to see yourself on film or anything.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Yeah. Of my own self-image.
So Jerry, lead the way, my friend.
Okay, well, there are the story of Vayetze. I mean, it starts with Jacob leaving his hometown of Beersheba and traveling off to Haran, and the where he meets through a stroke of fortuitousness, he meets Laban and Laban's daughters, Rachel and Leah. And I think one of the themes of the portion is this, not the conflict between Rachel and Leah, but I read one commentary that said that they represent two, that the tension between Rachel and Leah continues on all throughout Jewish history. That the Mashiach ben David, well, first of all, that Moshe was the descendant of Leah, but only Joshua could get us into the promised land, and he's the descendant of Rachel. And
Joshua means Jesus.
And Joshua.
Clearly, he's a pre-Christ figure.
He's Joshua.
And only Jesus can get you into the promised land.
Only Jesus can. Hey, well, exactly. Well, I think Yehoshua means like deliverer. Right. So, like, in the end, it's Jesus or bust. But we're in a pre-Christian phase here. But also when there's two messiahs, two Mashiachs that are coming, Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef, and ben Yosef is Rachel's heir, and ben David will be Leah's heir. So there's a lot going on there with Rachel and Leah. I guess what do you make of the differences? I don't know. What do you make of the two of them?
Well, Rachel is hot and Leah is not.
Right.
I mean, and the ugly have always had a burn on the beautiful. So I think that's kind of the.
What do you mean burn? Like
they've resented it.
Right.
So I mean, think about all the ugly chicks out there who are watching his video and like wish that they looked like Monica and Helen, but don't.
Right. Well, that's true, but
it's one of the great conflicts in Jewish history.
I think in human history, but there's still, but Leah's brings some stuff to the table too. I was interested in the way it described them physically when Jacob saw them. One, that Leah had tender eyes and Rachel had fine features and a fine countenance or something.
I don't think it was tender. I think it was weak. Isn't tender like a nice way of saying not attractive eyes?
I don't think so. I mean, to me, tenderness is, the strong are always tender because they don't have to be, and the weak can be tender or try to be tender too. But no, tenderness comes from strength, I think.
Well, I thought it was translated meaning weak, which I didn't know. Maybe just me, but I didn't have a thing for girls with weak eyes. It just isn't.
Well, not weak. Well, weak eyes are like shifty, like downcast eyes.
Down syndrome eyes. What
No,
many people don't realize is that Leia had Down syndrome.
Is there a precedent for that, or is that
No,
just
that was
your
just my
innovation?
sudden
Well, I disagree.
blinding inspiration.
I think people with Down syndrome have warriors' eyes. they're so excited and they're so confident.
Would you like to marry a Down syndrome
I would not, but
bigot?
that's because they don't have features that appeal to me.
You don't like the mongoloid look?
Not so much. They have a simian crease, which is very interesting. They have a crease up here, which is interesting if you're into palmistry, because it's but if you're not, it's not interesting. No, I'm not into chicks with Down syndrome. But
Do you think Leia might have had Down syndrome?
No, my read on Leia is that she's a compassionate, fertile, a strong woman. Because a tender woman, to be tender, you have to look right at someone, and you have to see them, and you have to have compassion. That's not really for the weak. I mean, that's because tenderness isn't fearful. I don't think. I mean, it's brave because you have enough of a sense of self that you can look directly at someone else and see them rather than see your own shit. So like, and she's the fertile one. She's the one who just keeps birthing them babies. So like, I don't know. To me, Leia is like fertility and Rachel is power. And yeah, Joshua comes from power, from the ability to strike and to exert your will on other people. But
Why do you think Rachel is powerful?
because fine features are power. I mean, a beautiful woman has the power of a beautiful woman, and she can rely on that rather than on internal resources, because wherever she goes,
Right.
people see her beauty, and then she ages, and then she's fucked. Right? I mean,
Yeah, that starts to make sense.
so yeah, so that was interesting to me. Like, yeah.
Well, on the way, I'll just jump in
Yeah.
here. Right at the beginning of the Parsha, it talks about Jacob having a dream that there was a ladder going up to heaven and angels were going up and down. And according to the Scroll commentary, Jacob was shown the guardian angels of the four kingdoms that would ascend to dominate Israel. Jacob saw each angel climbing a number of rungs corresponding to the years of its dominion, and then descending as its reign ended. Babylon's angels climbed 70 rungs and then went down. Media's angel 52, Greece's 130. But the angel of Edom Esav kept climbing indefinitely, symbolizing the current exile, which seems to be endless.
Huh.
Anything? You buy that?
Well, by it you mean that it went down that way, or
Yeah. Do you think that's what the angels were representing? As the four kingdoms that would come to dominate Israel?
Well, I mean, it doesn't say anything about that in the text itself. It just says the angels are ascending and descending. So, that's someone else thought that up as like a neat little metaphor somewhere along. Does it say who says that?
Midrash Rabbah 29:2.
I mean, I guess the way I approach it is when you get that kind of commentary, you don't look in the. It's not in the text really. That's just another contribution from someone else. So that, I mean, yeah, that's a fine metaphor, because Esau, it's not just the exile. It's Esau's descendants in Edom. I mean, that's blood. It's strife. It's pain, and to which the Jewish people are subjected, but to which everyone is subjected. It never ends. So it's like a Buddha. To me, that's like a Buddhist thing. Life doesn't happen without suffering. You can't avoid that.
Now, it says that when Jacob met Rachel that he kissed her.
Yeah.
That's a little... I mean, what
Before he even told her who he was.
What about Shemer and Nagia?
Yeah. That was my thought too. And it says he kisses her, and then he tells her who he is. So it's just first